Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm Blackbright and I'm broadcasting out of the UK, and I'm letting, I talk mostly about immigration and deportation, but I do speak about other things as well. So anything that I think is of interest to the public and I think they should know, that is what I highlight. Now, this is not a dating service. I'm not here because I'm looking for a boyfriend or anything. So please do not write to me and ask me about whether or not I want to date, or ask me if you can see me or link with me. I'm not interested. This is a serious platform, and I want it to be treated with respect, and I want it to be treated for the purpose for which it was designed, which is to inform people, and people who need information. You get so many people who don't want to admit that they can't read, they can't write, and sometimes the YouTube videos is the only way they can get information. So let's use it for the purpose for which it's designed. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is how scammers prey on the desperate with regard to immigration. I can imagine how many desperate people there are now that the laws have changed and the ante has been stepped up. We have now people trying to exploit that. And people are getting calls and are saying that there's a deadline, and if you don't pay this money by the deadline, you're going to get deported. And as an overstayer or an undocumented person, you're going to say, how do they know? How do they know I've overstayed? And you might believe it, but you have people who have got nothing better to do than to sit home, go through phone books and look for all the foreign sounding names and hope that they hit potluck. You also have people who buy marketing lists, especially when you shop online. Sometimes when you shop online, you don't realise that when you tick for their terms and agreement, you're actually agreeing for them to send out lists with your name and your telephone number on it. So don't think that just because someone's called you and knows about your situation that they are genuine. The Home Office is never going to come to your house. They're never going to ask you for money. They'll ask you for evidence with regard to if you've got money in your bank account, and they want to know if you have money in your bank account to substantiate your stay. They'll ask you for evidence. They won't ask you for money. They will not ask you for a deposit. If somebody calls you up and say they can speed up your visa application, don't believe them. No one can. The Home Office have people on hand to deal with that, and everything takes time, and you're in a queue. And you don't know where you are in that queue. Anything that sounds too good to be true, don't believe it. Sometimes you can get these email addresses, and then when you click on it, you notice that the email changes. Be alert. The Home Office has a .gov UK. Even in America, it's got the .gov at the end. So don't pay attention when people write to you. Don't get nervous. Don't get emotional. Concentrate on what you're doing. Take your time. Ask yourself, does this sound realistic? Would the Home Office really ask me those questions? The Home Office have your information. They're not going to ask you for personal details. The only thing a lot of them ask you is your date of birth. But they don't ask you for anything else. But even then, you have to still be careful who you give your date of birth to, because a lot of times that is a form of ID. And, a lot of people use that in order as a part of their passing the security. So just know who you're dealing with. You ask questions. Don't allow them to ask you questions. Don't turn into the victim, because these people, they call and they call and they call all these different numbers waiting for the right response. And that right response might be someone sounding nervous, somebody sounding, oh, I'm sorry, somebody who's apologetic, somebody who's defensive. They look for all of those signs. Sometimes they behave aggressively. And, they'll say they're from the Home Office. They might say they're from the job centre. They might even say they're from the police. You've got to be careful. Never call back on a number that they have provided. If they say they're from the Home Office, you say, okay, I'm going to call you back, and you go and you get the main Home Office number, which is on the government website. If they say they're from the police, you say, okay, I'll call you back, and you call 999, no, well, not 999, I think it's 111 or 112, whatever the non-emergency police service is. If they say they're from the job centre, you should know what your local job centre number is. Put down, say, okay then, put down the phone and call the number that you have for the job centre. Don't call any numbers and don't respond to any emails, because a lot of those numbers are triggered and they're diverted. So you don't want that. And sometimes those numbers even cost you a lot of money, the numbers that they give you. So just be careful, just be alert, be sensible. Yes, I know how vulnerable you feel if you have overstayed or you're undocumented. I know how vulnerable and desperate you must feel. But people prey on that. If you're using a lawyer, make sure that they are authenticated through the bar. You know, there are ways to find out where a solicitor belongs, and always check. You go on the website and you say how to find a solicitor. I forget, I think I wrote it down, the one for the UK. I bet you I can't find it now. I always do this, don't I? I probably wrote it in my little notebook. Oh dear, I've got so many sources. When you're doing things like this, though, you need to look at so many sources. It's unbelievable. Okay, I don't know if this is for America or for the UK, but it's the Martindale Hubbard Law Directory. Make sure the solicitor is registered there. And in the UK, it's the Solicitors Regulation Authority. Yeah, the Solicitors Regulation Authority. And I think you can get that off of the, if you go to the website, just make sure you're going to the right place. Don't take up any solicitor, because you have to make sure they come recommended and they're authentic and they're licensed. Because I've heard so many stories about people, you know, lawyers taking people's money. They're not even licensed. They're not even lawyers. So just make sure where you put your money and who you put it with. The world is not necessarily a bad place. Sometimes it's because we don't use our judgment properly and we're not wise. And sometimes when we place ourselves in a predicament, we let our senses go. We don't think properly. We don't behave rationally. And as a result, we make even more worse choices. We end up losing even more money. And in trying to kind of sort yourself out, you end up losing so much. I was listening to a lady, she was in Papua New Guinea, and she'd paid $22,000. She was crying. They'd sold their homes, they'd sold their, they'd sold some land just to get somebody sent them some bogus work permit papers saying, oh, this is your papers to get this job. We've got you the job, we've got you the visa, all bogus. I tell you something, if you end up with a bogus document, whether it's a bogus passport, a bogus work permit, it's no point saying, oh, I didn't know. There's no point. You're in jail and you're deported. Don't try to cut corners. It's not worth it. Make sure whoever you're dealing with is authentic. The only authentic people are the Home Office and are solicitors and lawyers who are licensed. So do your homework, take your time. If you can't read or your English isn't very good, find somebody who can help you. We have plenty of services here. If, like I said, I give you my email address, blackbrightnews@gmail.com. I can direct you to authentic people, authentic persons. I'm not charging a fee for signposting you to somebody who can help you. But but you cannot get desperate and just take on anyone and be scammed even further and lose what little you've saved or what little you've got. It's just not fair. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, they've also got these scam websites, these websites that look so fantastic. Always make sure, especially if they're asking for money, that the padlock is in the search engine when you go to that pay page. If there's no padlock and it doesn't say HTTPS, that's H for hotel, T for tango, T for tango, P for papa, S for sugar. HTTPS has to have the S on the end if you're sending money. Okay, so don't use any website that's asking you for money if it doesn't have that prefix on it and a padlock. So they've got, anybody can make a website. So don't fall prey to all these fantastic websites that say, oh, I can get your visa in 7 days and whatever other crap they're telling people. I find it frustrating because I think, the people are already vulnerable, already desperate, and you get people just taking the pee. If you're unsure about phone calls, asking you for money, I tell you something, the instinct is very, very good. Don't press it down. If somebody calls you and you feel uncomfortable, don't put that down to you being illegal or you being undocumented. Put it down to the sign that this person is making me feel that way and therefore something isn't right. Put down the phone. If they want to speak to you again, they will leave a message. And even if they leave a telephone number, if they say they're from the Home Office, like I said, use the Home Office number. They say they're from the police, use the proper, authentic police number. If they say they're from the Border Force or immigration, everything is on Google. Look for their number. Don't call back on the number that they offer you, because a lot of times they're just looking for people who feel scared and afraid and will pay out just to try and sort themselves out. You've made a mistake. You've overstayed. There's no shortcuts. There's no quick route to putting it right. Worst case scenario, you're going to have to go back. If you see an immigration lawyer, an authentic immigration lawyer, they might be able to help you. There might be ways to get you through, depending on your circumstances. So that's what I'm advising. There's just too many scammers. A lot of these scammers are asking you to send money by MoneyGram and Western Union because they know it can't be traced. I even got caught. Well, I got caught by a scam once. I forget what they asked me to do. Oh yes, it was one of those where they'd got an email address of one of my contacts and said, oh, I'm in dire need. I've lost my wallet. I'm in a hotel. Please send me some money, blah, blah, blah. And this was a person that I thought, I didn't know him 100%, but I knew him quite well. And I knew that if he wanted something, he'd need it. I mean, I didn't send a lot of money, but the fact of the matter is it was a scam. And when I looked back at the email address, it was one of those that had defaulted to something else. It wasn't his email address at all. And a lot of these email addresses, when you click on them to return to sender, it changes completely from what you had originally to something else. So please be careful. Anyone of any intelligence, if you don't think for a minute, you can be scammed. So yeah, there was another one, another scam. I'm telling you about these scams because it will help you to understand how they work. Now, you wouldn't believe that a scammer would offer you money because you're always thinking that they want money from you. Well, I wasn't scammed because I was a bit clued on by then. But I had these people write to me I can't even remember how they wrote to me, but they wrote to me and they said they've seen my face and they would like to put it on a poster at Heathrow Airport for their foundation or some kind of product. And they were going to give me £10,000 and it would go on about 3 or 4 airports. And I'm like, wow, they're going to give me 10,000 quid. You know, my vanity. And I was thinking, oh yeah, it wasn't impossible for them not to like my face, so to speak. So anyway, they said, we'll send you the cheque by, I think the cheque and the contract in about 3 days' time. I'm like, 3 days' time? They're going to send me 10,000 quid? Anyway, they sent me the cheque, and in the envelope that they wrote to me, that on the front of the envelope, they hadn't even written my name properly. And the writing was all over the place. It was obviously somebody who couldn't write properly. Right. The form that they'd sent, there was nothing, there was no kind of contract to say, okay, this contract is from A to B, you're going to be paid X amount for this and that. All that it was saying was, oh, you're going to need to pay £2,000 for the finding fee for the agent. And this has to be paid by Western Union. Now, you know Western Union, you have to pay that. That's cash, Western Union. So what they were banking on is for me to be so happy to receive £10,000 that I would be gladly jump and pay £2,000, even though I wouldn't have had it. But there again, if you've got a cheque in your bank for 10,000, it's not unreasonable for the bank to allow you to take out 2,000. So they were saying, oh, £2,000 for this finder's fee. And I'm like, yeah, right. Anyway, I didn't think anything of it, to be honest. I wasn't suspicious at that point. When I became suspicious is that they called me nearly every day asking me if I deposited the cheque. And I'm thinking to myself, why are you worried about when I deposit the cheque? You know what I mean? Because it's my cheque, it's my money. What's it got to do with you? This is what I'm saying in my head. Anyway, it made me suspicious. So I called the bank and I said to the bank, how long does it take for a cheque to clear? And they said, normally 7 days. I said, is that when it properly clears? They said, oh no, it can take up to 3 months to properly clear, go all through the channels. So I could have paid out that £2,000 to this person for some finder's fee. I would have been out of pocket because that 10,000 cheque would have bounced eventually. And plus I would have used £2,000 out of my own money. So what it looked like they were giving to me, they weren't. It was only because, and I wasn't even working then. I could have been desperate. I could have thought, oh yeah, I've got some money, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't. Something within me said it was too good to be true. And there wasn't enough information to convince me that this was an authentic contract. But all I'm saying is that, there's so many ways that scammers try to get your money. And don't think that you have to be stupid for them to get your money. You can have a moment of desperation. You can have a moment of lapse of thought. It can just be that time when you're not thinking straight. So a lot of people get pulled into this scam ring. But immigration is now the latest thing because they know there are a lot of people who are undocumented and who are desperate to be straight, and they're looking for ways to be straight and they don't know how. So you've got a lot of these immigrant scammers who are trying to take advantage of that. So just be careful. I think I've gone on longer than I ever anticipated doing, so I'm going to stop now. Bye bye.